funny, I was in a conversation with some people out there in the Twitterverse, and the first question someone asked me about the Purge is, why on earth would they make another Purge movie? The first one sucked. Well, I can think of 89 million reasons on a budget of 3 million why they would make Purge Anarchy. Yo, it's your boy Vegabomber, letting you know what the movies are starting to look like now as we go into the second half of 2014. So this movie, obviously a sequel, it's Purge Anarchy. It's coming off the first Purge movie, which came out last year. This movie was directed by James DeMonaco, and you may remember him from, well, if you go old school, back to 1998, he did a movie called Negotiator with Samuel Jackson and Kevin Spacey. But even more recently, in 2005, he did a film, I believe it was called Assault. Yeah, it was Assault on Precinct 13, and that movie had Lawrence Fishburne and Ethan Hawke in it. But now, as it turns out, The Purge did as well as I said it did at the top. 89 million on a budget of 3 million. That means you're going to get a sequel, and that sequel is Purge Anarchy. So Purge Anarchy is basically the story of this gentleman named Leo, who's played by Frank Grillo, who's a guy who wants to do the Purge. I think in the first Purge movie, it was all about staying inside, and then the Purge people kind of finding their way in, and then all that horror and suspense kicks off. But in this film, we go out into the Purge. And so we follow Leo, Frank Grillo's character, out as he's wanting to get some revenge on his son who was killed by this man. And so he wants to go get his revenge. He wants to purge himself and the world, perhaps, of this man who killed his son. On the way, he ends up meeting this mother-daughter team that gets actually taken out of their home to be purged, and he steps in against his own judgment, against what he was originally going to do. And then there's this couple that gets stuck out in the middle of the Purge. Now, the Purge is this 12-hour period where the police just step back and say, hey, it's up to you guys, you can do anything you want. All violence, even murder, is legal, but only for 12 hours. You got 12 hours. So this couple has something happen to their car, it's been altered, so that it would make sure that they would be stuck out there, so that the purgers could try to purge them. And that's basically the movie. Frank Grillo ends up running into all these people, and then they end up having to say, we'll stick by your side without hopefully getting you killed. And there you go. So what are my props about this film? Well, I love the fact that Frank Grillo is the Punisher. Essentially, you don't even need to see him act or come in and do a reading of the sides. This guy, just watch this film and you'll see that's just the Punisher all day long. So I love Frank Grillo's character. He's kind of a throwback to Charles Bronson, the Duke, or even Clint Eastwood. Just a strong, silent type, doesn't talk much, and definitely knows how to handle his guns. So that was pretty awesome. The second thing was, I liked that it was a different cast. So therefore, I didn't have any preconceived notions about these people. It's kind of hard now whenever I see a Robert Downey Jr. film and not see Tony Stark or Iron Man in it. Well, in this film you don't really have to worry about that because you have a bunch of new fresh faces, different people, different kinds of acting, and I'd say the acting was pretty decent. And I'd say the third thing about this film I like was just the concept, that we got a different idea now. It's not just robots killing robots, or a big monster tearing up a city and fighting other big monsters, or guys in skinny suits jumping around saying they're here to save the world while their rivals twirl their mustaches and say, no, we're trying to end the world. So it's a good concept. It's new, it's different, and it makes you have to think, and it's some definitely good commentary on how we view life. So the eye rolls. Yeah, there's a couple. Actually, maybe one. My big eye roll to this film is that there seemed to be some extra context that we could have used in order to find out some more about the bad guys. And that's about probably as much as I want to say about that without giving away more. But I would have liked to have known a little bit more about the bad guys, seen a little bit more of why they're even doing what they're doing. I just didn't know. Was it just pure evil? I guess that's what it was. So I would say that probably the major eye rolls in this film is that we don't really get much context on the motivations of the people that are actually making the film a little more interesting. We'd love to find out more than just what happens to Leo as he tries to lead these people through the city without being harmed and without himself being harmed. So I think they kind of chickened out on really explaining some of that. But again, It may have slowed the movie down to a pace that they didn't want, and the pacing of this movie is pretty good, so maybe it's a draw. Alright, so what did I think of this movie? Let me tell you, here in Vegabomber land, we only got 2 ratings that we give here. No middle ground stuff. Either the movie is good enough for you to spend your money on it, or it wasn't. Here in Vegabomber land, we have the blowing up sign, which means that it's blown up, it's getting credibility, it's awesome, or blown up, getting blown up, which means it just needs to be detonated, like a building that's an eyesore, just needs to come down. And Vegabomber gives this movie, Purge Anarchy, the blown up sign. And let me tell you why. If you set your brain on numb, go in there just to have a good time, and if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of suspense, and if you're a fan of action, I think this movie really does deliver that. So in that case, yeah, it's not trying to be anything that it's not trying to project itself as. It really is just a horrible night on the street, and you get to see how these characters work through it. So as far as that's concerned, that's what you need to do. Set your brain on numb and go in and just have a good time. You got to have some movies like that. So anyway, this is your boy Vegabomber letting you know what's up, so that you know where to spend your money and what you could probably wait for and Redbox it. I'm out of here. You.